Barely 4 months after the chairman of his board of trustees, Nastura Sharif, was arrested and detained by police in Abuja for organizing a protest over the insecurity in Katsina, the coalition of northern groups has vowed to begin a wave of marches in the 19 northern states to protest rising insecurity in the region. The non-stop protests, according to the group, are aimed at drawing attention of President Muhammadu Buhari and the 19 northern state governors to the plight of the region. The group said the ineptitude and the apparent failure of elected appointed leaders from the north to either protect the lives and property of Northerners or to address the many challenges in the region faced has pushed them to the wall. Spokesman of the group, Abdulaziz Suleiman, said while elected and appointed leaders of southern Nigeria were quick to identify with their people at a time of need, their counterparts from the north, including President Muhammadu Buhari, the Senate President Ahmed Lawan, and senators, House of Representative members, governors, and state legislators, and other government appointees, abandoned the people in the northern community exposed to crime, insecurity, and other violent crimes without any form of protection. Tundun, this protest, what's your take on it?
Well, you go through the statement by the CNG, and there's nothing there that we all do not already know. The problems are glaring, and the fact that this group of Nigerians has determined to also embark on their own protest is not surprising. And they did single out for special mention the governors of Borno State and Zamfara as also showing solidarity with what the people are going through, like their southern counterparts. The silence of the remainder of northern leaders has been deafening, according to them, and that silence speaks volumes, and it speaks to indifference to the plight of the people. They talked about police brutality, talked about electricity tariff hike, talked about the state of education in Nigeria, a broad range of issues, and they also touched on the fact that the sudden disbandment of SARS could create a vacuum in the north, which we all know is more plagued than any other part of Nigeria at this moment with problems of insecurity. And that notwithstanding, they still support NSAS. So that in itself is telling.
Well, I think that, this is a very frightening development. We said that what is going on in the country is frightening. And what we have seen is that the fire is beginning to spread. We hope it will not engulf the country. We're facing what is beginning to look like a Hong Kong situation. The youth of Hong Kong, they've been protesting for about a year now, and nobody has been able to suppress them. And what we're seeing in open demonstration in Nigeria is the power of the youth and the power of youth solidarity and a whole generation that is saying that we want to take back our country because the leadership has failed us. Previously, in the last 8 days, we saw the protests majorly in the southern part of the country, from the Middle Belt down south. Now, what this northern coalition of groups in the north indicates is that now the fire may also begin to rage in the north. I don't see any difference between what the northern youth groups, what they are asking for, northern coalition of groups, of northern groups, what they are asking for. They are basically also in support. There are 5 demands, similar to the demand by the NSAS group or movement in the southern part of the country. They are criticizing the leadership. They say they are passing a vote of no confidence in the leadership of the country, and particularly the northern leadership that, according to them, has failed the people. 2, they are saying that there are very serious security problems in the north, and their own hashtag is End Insecurity Now. Okay, which is no different from the core demand also of the NSAS group in the southern part of the country. Yes, Tundun has mentioned their opposition to the agreement reached with Labour, and they say that the agreement reached with Labour on electricity tariffs is unacceptable, and that what they are asking for is a complete reversal. Now, they are also asking for a reform of the police, and they are also talking about welfare for the police and all of that. Well, 5 has become a very popular number. And they even went as far as publishing phone numbers of leaders in all various zones in the north. And they're saying that the protest will start today. Previously, as part of the NSAS movement, we saw protests in Adamawa, we saw protests in Kaduna. Now, when I saw how organized this group is, I was afraid, because if that protest that they are launching today should get to Kano, And you know Kano is like Lagos, with a huge population. Then, of course, we'll have a serious problem on our hands. Now, what is the second point to be made? The position of this coalition of northern groups is to be contrasted with that of a group called Northern Youth Alliance of Nigeria, NYAN. You will recall that that group is the pro-SARS group. They claim that they are also from the north. And when the NSAS protest started, they started organizing pro-SARS protests in the northern part of the country. Should there be any confrontation, any conflict between the pro-SARS group and the northern coalition groups, you could see again very serious security crisis in the northern part of the country. We have already seen that indication of conflict, of a duel on these 5 demands, that have become popular in Lagos yesterday, when some hoodlums tried to infiltrate the NSAS protest, and also in Abuja, where, as at this morning, we're told that 4 people died. And if we take the death toll from this protest generally, we already have the previous 10 that Amnesty International reported, 2 reported in Lagos yesterday, another 4 reported in Abuja yesterday. The numbers seem to be growing. And I think that the Nigerian government will need to think quickly out of the box. What would they do? And I think the country is paying a price for neglecting this strategic segment of the population. We say Nigeria is a youthful population, it's predominantly young, and that makes us a diamond nation. That shows that our future is secure. But you see these boys and girls, they are out there. ASU strike has been on for more than 1 year.
They're not in school.
They are not engaged.
Yeah.
So you don't really even need to mobilize people to come out to Lekki toll gate. It gives them something to do. Half of the youths in this country, they are unemployed. So NSAS and national insecurity has become a form of occupation. And with the determination they have shown, they could keep at it. Look at the crowd at Lekki yesterday. I was told that they have even been assured that people should not stay at home to watch Premier League matches. That provision will be made for you to watch football, right there on the streets. So that is how serious the problem is. And I don't know. I don't have any immediate solutions. And some people have said maybe the president should take a decision and maybe fire the Inspector General of Police. Do something, that can reassure these young people that government is really listening to them.
And there were 2 deaths, there were 2 casualties in Delta, so 18 to add to
Okay, so 18,
some
we
people
keep
are
counting.
reporting 20, but I don't know where they got the other 2.
In fact, speaking of what to
Delta.
do, I have been seeing the NSAS protesters retweet our interview with Hassan Stanlabo. It's gone viral, about what the government should do now, address the nation by 7 p.m., de-escalate, go as much as possible to the families of those hurt by this protest and, commiserate with them. A lot of the NSAS protesters have been picking that up, have been retweeting it. Even the feminist group,
The Feminist Coalition they are called,
retweeted that. Even FK Abudu,
Yeah, that's the lady leading the Feminist Coalition.
Of the Feminist Coalition, Feyikemi Abudu, retweeted that. So, is it turning towards something? Could that be? And, all of a sudden, Hassan Stanlabo has become, a rallying point in how you should respond to them, because a lot of them even put the word, Hassan Stanlabo, this man is my father. This is what we want at this point in time. Well, could we learn from that? But like you said rightly, Dr. Abati, government should try as much as possible and look at the demands and let us really cater to the young people in this country.
And by the way, Tundun, they are calling out mothers. We saw a poster saying that mothers should come and support their sons and daughters.
But mothers have always joined
on
them.
October 17th. Now it's, there is the Feminist Coalition.
Yeah.
But now they're saying, all mothers should come out and show concern. I guess fathers will also be asked to come out. And you are right. I've seen some parents joining the protest.
Several parents.
Elderly women.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one elderly woman that was slapped by a policeman. I mean, this psychiatric examination for policemen, it must be a matter of urgent national importance. Because you saw the video, this woman will be like in her late 70s. And a policeman slapped her. And the woman was saying, what has she done? She's not a criminal. Just for coming out to support children who are protesting, who say they want a better country, does she deserve a violent slap? She said she would do something about it. Well, what she would do about it, I do not know. Because if she goes to report to the same police, they may not do anything about it.
And before we came on air, I was watching Femi Adesina on TV this morning, and he kept on saying, as long as the protesters are within the bounds of protest, that they might end anytime they want. they might continue anytime they want. That is up to the organizer of the protesters to continue anytime. I mean, they granted an interview just this morning, and Femi Adesina was saying that.
Yeah, but what if it gets out of hand? What if it goes out of hand? Look at those kids who were at Lekki toll gate overnight.
Yeah.
Somebody even provided lighting.
Yeah. But can you try and explain this? Why on earth, because you've sat in that chair, would a presidential spokesperson make that kind of a statement?
Well, I assume that he probably was not speaking for the president.
He had better not have been.
And then secondly, I mean, I wouldn't want to criticize my successor
That's
in that
That's an entirely wrong approach to take.
No, but I think he was just saying that to be able to say that a lot of Nigerians have a right of protest, you know,
no,
to
what people need to hear is that your concerns are valid and they will be addressed. That's the messaging that needs to be established at this point.
On a final note, I understand they are beginning to serve alcohol at some of those protest points in Lagos. Nobody should serve alcohol.
That's true.
That would be a serious threat to public peace.
Yes.
And no use of recreational drugs, please, on the protest ground. That's all on news headlines. Take a short break. Welcome back. Still one issue right here on the Rise News channel. Our dependable Rotus Oddiri. Over to you, business update. Rotus, I know you have to react to a lot of things this morning and clear our name.
There is so much going on. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Tundun. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning.
Yeah, again, attached to the NSARS protest on the tech side of things, there's an activist or hacktivist group called Anonymous. They've, over the years, tweeted support for movements that they feel they are aligned with. And since most of the folks on the unfortunate end of SARS harassment are people in the tech community in Nigeria, they sent out a tweet, there it is, saying Anonymous hacks multiple government websites in solidarity with NSARS. And what they're saying is that they have, they're protesting and retribution for violence by police. So apparently they've released, sensitive information, the payroll for SARS officers, bank details for a number of officers, telephone numbers. They've also given about, I think, a 72-hour deadline. You can see the tweets reactions there, people thanking them, saying, Anonymous, thank you. I'm sure this even take 5 minutes to do. All types of reactions that you're seeing here with people, reacting to them, hacking into these websites. Look at this. It said, what is this? I just wanted to put this. It said bank details of top officers. It's going to release transaction details in 72 hours if demands are not met. And I think that is tied to the 5 for 5 point plan that they're asking for. So yeah, look at that. Anonymous has issued 72 hours to the federal government and releases all these documents. Or police. They want them to release details of police brutality and incessant killings in Nigeria. So it's they've got that Twitter account has about 5 million followers. You're seeing more reactions there, and I didn't want to put the details there, but you can for anyone, they're out there. They're all out there, but I didn't want to actually put them there. But if you zoom in there, you'll actually, anyone who takes a look, again, telephone numbers, bank details, they're actually threatening to release more information. So this has taken the attention of the international community. In addition to this, Jack Dorsey, who is the CEO of Twitter, look at that. He also linked to the Feminist Coalition account, which we talked about yesterday. Remember the Feminist Coalition, they put up that tweet saying that their account details had been, as far as the Flutterwave account had been deactivated. So they're putting other information out there with regards to how to get support. And Dorsey now jumped in. Now, Dorsey is a Bitcoin activist, right? And he's now saying that, look, donate through Bitcoin in order to end SARS. He visited Nigeria, let's not forget, in 2019. There he is with Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, who is, by the way, she's on the board of Twitter. He came to, late 2019, he came to the tech community as part of his visit to four country visits across Africa. So, he's also tweeting his solidarity and his support for the tech community. Yeah, that's him at, I think, Unilag. He's taking a picture there at Unilag, a selfie with a bunch of people at Unilag. So, and he's got 4 million followers on Twitter as well. So, with what's going on here, you can see that for Bitcoin advocates, what is happening here is that for their narrative, they like to feel like they are knights in shining armor that swoop down to assist movements that have been cut off from fiat money. And this perfectly fits in for them. The moment that Feminist Coalition account was cut off from their Flutterwave account and put up that Bitcoin address, this is now what happens. And this is you have to think of the magnitude of what this means. This man is the CEO of Twitter. He's got 4 million followers. So now he's publicly endorsing this group. It brings more attention. You now add the anonymous tweet as well. And this thing is taking a life of its own. There's also another tweet from a young man who is putting up Bitcoin. There's another tweet, Itachi, I think his name is Itachi. He says, I'm not a scammer because I have Luno. I'm not a scammer because I trade BTC. I'm not a scammer because I have Toilet. He's just mentioning different Bitcoin and cryptocurrency exchanges that are active in Nigeria and across Africa. He says, I'm not a scammer because I afford what you can, then answers. Now, the gentleman by the name of Yusuf, there he is, Ray Yusuf. Ray Yusuf runs Paxful. Paxful is another exchange that operates in Africa, a cryptocurrency exchange. He said this is a crisis of human rights happening now. Police are targeting young entrepreneurs for using cryptocurrency. Nigerians brilliantly adopted crypto early and used it legitimately to rise out of poverty and restore honor to Nigeria. And this is their reward, NSAR. So they're just piling on these international people. Remember, let's go back to that Reuters data that they took of Africa, Bitcoin use. We talked about it about a month ago. Remember this, monthly crypto transfers under 10,000, up 55% to $316 million as of June. Volume of monthly transfers crossed over 600,000 of them. Nigeria, South Africa, Kenya led those transactions. Nearly $56 million worth of crypto transfers in Nigeria alone in June. I mean, again, this at the time when we talked about this in September, I was talking about the fact that a number of traders didn't have access to foreign exchange for those that were bringing in goods into Nigeria to trade. So they were turning to Bitcoin in order to aid the payment of suppliers. So now, if you now add, these volumes are going to go up. So these are numbers as of June. By the time we look at September, October, with Jack Dorsey and all these other crypto exchange people joining the NSARS movement, you're going to see an increase in cryptocurrency transactions. And as I said yesterday, this is a threat to central banks around the world, because while they can control fiat money, as of right now, they do not have any control over cryptocurrencies. And when you think of the potentials of what this could mean, other movements are what they could fund and the types of things they could go. Depending on what side you sit on, if you're a Bitcoin advocate or cryptocurrency advocate, it's encouraging. If you are an anti-cryptocurrency advocate and you are alarmed at the fact that central banks don't have control of this thing, it is alarming. So that's what's going on. Also, one more thing, in case we forget, other macroeconomic issues. Dr. Yemi Kali of the Statistician General of the Bureau of Statistics also sent out a tweet. Inflation figures are due at 8:30 a.m. This morning for September. So we're at 13.22 for August. Food inflation continues to push things upwards. So we'll see what those figures are at 8:30.
Well, right. One, Rotus, the Bitcoin part of it that you talked about, I think the big takeaway for me is how the support base for the NSAS movement, NSWAT movement, and for the protesting youths of Nigeria, how that support base is continuing to expand, both locally and internationally. I mean, Jack Dorsey is big, yes. The CEO of Paxful is big. Okay, so Bitcoin, what triggered that perhaps was what happened to the Feminist Coalition in Nigeria. But also, other celebrities like Kanye West, and so many others, they are supporting this movement in Nigeria, and they are going on Twitter to express their support. And locally, we have also seen the most unusual kind of support with pastors who wield a lot of influence coming out openly. Pastor Sam Adeyemi of Daystar, Pastor Adeoye of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, which is a very big church with a lot of followership. Yesterday, in one part of Lagos, one pastor that they called Jehovah Sharp, one Pastor Samson Mustafa. Yeah. They said he personally went onto the street to lead the troops of young Nigerians to say, look, we have been peaceful, but we want this country to move forward. And that's why I think government is dealing with something that they don't quite understand yet. Look at the Feminist Coalition that you referred to. Okay, they lost out with Flutterwave, so they moved to Providence Bank. And this morning, somebody sent me a breakdown from Feminist Coalition of how much they have been able to raise In Naira alone, they've raised 62.6 million US dollars, over $11,000, and so on and so forth. From Bitcoin, over 1.2 million Naira. And they've been able to provide support in about 25 states of the Federation of Nigeria. And this is just one group of young women saying we want our country to change. There are probably other groups that are not yet providing the breakdown. So it's not as if it's a political party that is sponsoring them. Ordinary Nigerians from all over the world, interested parties. Can you imagine the CEO of Twitter asking people in the world to help support a movement in Nigeria?
Yeah.
It's big.
It's big. And that's even to add on top of that, Twitter brings up this air of non-partisanship. They don't support causes. They don't support a lot of movements. They just like to stay on the fence. And Jack Dorsey is doing this. You know, Jack Dorsey was supposed to be in Africa because I met him personally when he came to Nigeria a couple of months back. He was supposed to live a year in Africa, but I'm sure because of COVID, he's not been able to do that. Africa is the next frontier. I asked, why is even Bitcoin very popular? Look at it. Countries where you have a lot of mobile money and Bitcoin, as a result of the failure of the fiat currency, a good case in point is Zimbabwe. See how mobile money, Bitcoin, and other forms of ancillary money has taken over the economy. Look at it. It's strictly down to Nigeria now. Look at it, and look at how the wave is growing strongly. And you know the thing about this lazy Nigerian youth? They are quick to adopt. They are innovative. They are quick. They see any new technology, Nigeria becomes the frontier, we start to ride the wave. And it's been on, despite the fact that at some point the CBN banned trading in crypto and the likes, and they said, don't even do it. And I remember I was back on radio then, they would even say we shouldn't even take people that come to talk about crypto. But crypto has found its feet in Nigeria, and it is going to be the currency of the future. Not only Jack Dorsey have endorsed it, what's it called? The CEO of JP, where you work, Rotus, JP Morgan, remind me his name now, Demon.
Yes, Jamie Dimon.
Jamie Dimon himself endorsed cryptocurrency and said, you know what, this is the future, so I need to start buying it. If the CEO of JP Morgan, one of the biggest banks in the world, can do that, you should know that crypto is the future. So let us look at this very critically. And let us all be careful. Let us look at the demand and try to meet people halfway. Indeed.
But to the credit of the CBN, though, they did turn around. I mean, the central bank did host, in fact, I attended, this was late last year or the year 2018. The central bank did bring they brought folks, stakeholders to talk about how they can try to understand Bitcoin. So they have they've turned around. I mean, they're still talking about the risk, but the CBN is trying to understand what it is, and trying to be more accommodative. But, so there's a bit of a turnaround.
I wanted to talk to you about the activities of Anonymous, the hacker group. I wanted to go more into detail on that. What exactly are their demands? Because they tend to operate on sort of, threats. If you don't do A, we will retaliate in this manner. Right. What exactly are the demands now?
So, according to the tweets, they're giving the federal government about 72 hours to give into the demands, those 5-point demands. Release all people who have been in custody of SARS. Compensation for the families of the victims of SARS that have been killed, a complete reform of the police, I believe increasing their pay, also increasing their training. Those 5 points are what they want. So they're saying, look, if you don't acquiesce with respect to those demands, we are going to release more information. And people on Twitter are already confirming that some of those phone numbers and bank accounts that have been released are actually valid, and they actually and again, Nigeria was still growing with respect to cybersecurity. We've talked in the past about how some government agencies have Yahoo and Hotmail accounts. These things aren't very hard to hack into, and these guys, I mean, they hack into U.S. government accounts. So for developing economies like ours, it's not really a difficult thing to do that. So they're also threatening to release details of bank transactions with respect to SARS police officials and so on and so forth. So their demands are, look, what the End SARS movement has asked for, you give in to those demands within 72 hours. If not, we're going to release more information.
Well, Rotus, any prediction as to what the report from the Bureau of Statistics will be? It's almost 8:30 now. With the upward pressure that is still within the economy, will food inflation go up? Would headline inflation also be higher?
Yeah, the doctor, I see it going up. I don't think it will hit. We're at 13.2, so maybe we go to 13.25, 13.3, but it's going. The upward trajectory is going to continue. So I see it continue to increase because the pressures are still there. It's still cost-push inflation, supply chain effects with respect to reduction in supply of food. Remember when the President Buhari talked about the increase in cost of food. The flooding that affected Kebbi and about 25% of rice outputs being affected. So all those things now are going to now see the effects. So food inflation is going to continue to increase. I'm seeing the upward trajectory continuing.
All right, very, very valid. Thank you so much, Rotus. Moving on to Africa Business Update. Moving on to World Business Update. Michael Wilson now joins us. Michael, great to have you. All the way from London.
Hello there, good morning. So I'm going to return to yesterday, if I may, because Asian markets have been very directionless, and we didn't really get a chance to look at the Chinese president's speech in any detail. It was very heavy on rhetoric, and it actually disappointed as far as policies were concerned, and it was actually not market moving at all. And basically, that tone really continued today. Asian markets mostly lower today, and really about that speech, nothing really to gain from it. And it was actually an opportunity to say something rather important, given as it happened in Shenzhen, which is like a shop window to the rest of the world. But note this, that dollar bonds issued by China were oversubscribed to the tune of $27 billion. Last year, it's oversubscribed by $10 billion. So a big vote of confidence in the Chinese economy from particularly the United States. Never mind what the politicians say about a dislocation between the future intentions of the two countries. A very, very difficult day, really, for European stocks yesterday. That, I think, will continue today. No stimulus package, endless procrastination in the United States, no deal before the election on November the 3rd. Very, very different ideas about what Republicans and what Democrats might want. No great surprise there. But it is rather odd, isn't it, that nothing has been decided about this. Healthcare stocks in the forefront yesterday. And it's also, I think, one of the truisms that we're beginning to get is that the path to a vaccine is not going to be a particularly smooth one at all at a time when lockdown restrictions are being applied around the world. However, here's another interesting one. Look at those Goldman Sachs Q3 figures yesterday. Almost double profits from this time last year. So something is happening in the United States. It might just be restricted to Wall Street rather than Main Street, but those Goldman stocks results pretty good. So financial markets are for the moment ignoring the second wave of COVID-19, which is going across the United Kingdom and also Europe as well. And also they are disregarding the negative implications for the global consumption picture. I think it's rather stupid of them to do this because it will actually happen. Partial lockdowns are appearing all over, but it seems they'll only react if national lockdowns are applied again. I'll give you an example of that from France. First of all, the French government announced further tightening of restrictions. In the UK, government in Northern Ireland set out its plans for its own mini weekend 4-week lockdown. The Welsh government making plans to close the border. But if there was any unanimity, well, there's none now. And the air is thick with mutiny, basically. I can put it like that. The Labour Party leader, Keir Starmer, asking for a 2-week countrywide circuit breaker lockdown and so on. It's hard to gauge whether a lockdown would be any good or not. I mean, we just have no idea. So European markets will be opening lower this morning, have opened lower. In fact, they're much more focused on the Brexit negotiations. Now, you remember me saying that the UK Prime Minister had put today as a deadline for those to be actually completed. Well, they aren't going to be, pretty obviously. It may continue for the next couple of months. It has to happen, something at least has to happen before the end of the year. Many financial commentators are costing in the fact that a no-deal Brexit will be cast alone into the wide seas of the world. Well, we'll see how that goes. Commodities, Now then, Brent crude and WTI up yesterday. Likely culprit is the US API crude inventory data, which showed a drop much larger than expected. So that's why the oil price has gone up, and gold price is basically drifting. And that's how it's going to be for the rest of the day. That's your global view.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Everybody, you've expressed a general consensus about Xi Jinping's speech, which is why most people have focused on his rather suspect coughing fit that he had, since the speech really lacked substance. But I thought that you would talk about BTS. I mean, I didn't expect for you to be a fan of boy bands, but they did have a hugely successful debut on the South Korean stock market, $8.5 billion debut, if I'm going to be specific, which is amazing in the global pandemic.
K-pop.
Yes.
Viva K-pop.
Who said I wasn't a fan of boy bands? Who told you that? No. I know them all. I know them all. Ask me any question. No, I think it's very interesting, actually. I mean, I didn't mention it because I think it's just a phenomenon, and I don't think it's got anything particularly to do with anything at all. To be honestly, I'm much more interested in the way that people are ignoring the main signals from the markets. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you know, never knock teenagers, never knock younger people's taste in music. Basically, I mean, it makes money for a lot of people. But I think we've got far more important and serious things to think about, and one of those is particularly the pandemic, which I really don't think the financial markets are taking note of at all, boy bands or no boy bands.
Okay.
Well, well, there was a question I wanted to ask you yesterday. Now, again, today you brought China. Now, China, you know, its exports have gone up by about 9.9% in September. Imports rose by about 3.2% around the same period. The stocks, which you refer to, they are heading towards a 5-year all-high. And China remains the dominant trading partner in the world. Now, yes, maybe gains for China, but what is in it for the rest of the world? Is there a positive side in terms of global economic recovery, or does this confirm an existing conspiracy theory about COVID-19?
No, I don't think there's a conspiracy theory. Well, there might be a theory about it. I don't subscribe to a conspiracy theory about it. But as far as China's concerned, I was asking our Far East, my Far East contacts this morning, and Asia Pacific contacts, about what they felt about, because it was rather unusual. I did note it, didn't I, yesterday, that their imports actually were huge compared with what everybody had expected. Are they playing catch up? It may well be. Nobody really knows, to be honest. It's very difficult to tell, but there we are. I feel it's healthy that they are actually taking in iron ore, particularly from Australia, as they vocally said to Australia that they're going to restrict coal imports from that country. So I think, honestly, I'm a globalist, really, and I believe in other countries helping each other. Politicians come and go, but countries actually need growing populations, need to feed them, need to keep industries going. And I think it's pretty healthy that China is importing as much as it is. If you look at its neighbouring countries like Japan, domestic consumption relatively low. Not quite sure where the rest of the world's going, but no, I don't subscribe to the conspiracy theory. I hear where it's coming from. I think it's just a country which it will do its business on its own terms. It's big enough to do that. It will become, there's no question about it, it will become the biggest economy in the world. Africa as a continent will be bigger than it by 2030 maybe, but actually as an economy, the whole world is tilting eastwards, and it is towards China. I think it's entirely healthy, a good idea that the rest of the world is meeting its crude demands.
I have to leave you now. But today is supposed to be Boris Johnson's Brexit deal deadline, 15th of October. But you can answer this tomorrow. Like the Jamaicans will say, what are going on Brexit? What's happening with Brexit deal? All right. For more updates on COVID-19 pandemic, Adesua Amora joins us right about now.
Good morning, Adesua.
Morning.
Good morning. What a go on, picking up from where Rufai stopped as it concerns COVID-19 globally. Let's take a look at the global figures this morning. The coronavirus has sickened 38,517,186 people around the world. As at this morning, we are seeing the total deaths 1 million, and 92,256 But let me just add that millions have also recovered from the coronavirus globally, and they continue to recover. Now that we know the figures, let's dive into some of the other things happening as regards COVID-19 around the world and trying to put a break on the spread of the coronavirus. That's what President Emmanuel Macron of France hopes to do with the new restriction measures he announced yesterday. President Macron had to make this announcement as France became the latest European country to toughen its coronavirus, declaring a public health state of emergency and imposing a curfew on Paris and 8 other cities in the country. Now, the announced night restrictions between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. would affect around 20 to 22 million people. It begins on Saturday. It will remain in force for at least 4 weeks, and anyone violating this curfew will be fined 135 euros. Yes, you see that map. Those are the total figures for France as at this morning. But how did France get here? How did it get this bad? Yes, that particular map shows it. The country managed to control the first outbreak by introducing a national lockdown. It then opened bars and restaurants in the summer, allowed tourists to visit as part of an effort to boost its ailing economy at the time. Then schools followed. Universities began teaching in-person classes in early autumn. But since August, take a close look at August. As you can see from that graph, the number of reported cases has been rising and has accelerated quickly. In fact, yesterday, was the 3rd time in 6 days that France reported more than 20,000 new infections. Mr. Macron hopes that these new measures would help bring down the numbers from those 20,000 to about 3,000. The story is not different across Europe, like I said, new restrictions, but they are more targeted than they are blanket. However, it is much of a huge debate if these restrictions are the way to go. Let's leave France and go quickly to India, where authorities are saying that 77% of the new infections we are seeing are coming from just 10 states in the country. Interestingly, the southwestern coastal state of Kerala, which was once perceived and received global praise for effectively tackling the virus, has now been reporting the highest number of daily cases for the past few days amongst those 10 states. It was the first state where coronavirus was confirmed in the country in January, on the 30th to be precise. But in the last 24 hours, Kerala has reported 8,764 new infections. There have been at least 7 million, confirmed cases in India, and 111,000 deaths in the country. India currently stands as number 2 globally with infection rates and number 3 with death rates. Moving on quickly, reports according to NBC News in America says President Trump has produced a test showing he's no longer contagious, and that's in preparation for a town hall event in Miami to be organized by the television channel. NBC says it received a statement from Dr. Clifford Lane, the clinical director of the National Institute of Health, indicating that he, Dr. Clifford, and Dr. Anthony Fauci reviewed the president's medical data, including a molecular PCR test, and concluded, quote, with a high degree of confidence that President Trump was not shedding infectious virus. Now, this news comes as the First Lady, Melania Trump, revealed that their 14-year-old son, Baron, was also infected with the virus, but now they are both negative. America still accounts for the most COVID-19 infections and deaths globally as we speak. And yes, let's check the vaccine race. Even though the World Health Organization is tracking over 170 candidates for the vaccines, these vaccines are being developed in very rapid pace like never seen before, but not many of them are taking into consideration the children. In these trials, the start age for many of them are 18, except for, thank God, Pfizer. Pfizer had reduced its starting age to 16, but now we are told that it has received an approval from the FDA to extend the age to 12. So that means that with these trials, we'll be seeing children tested in these trials as well. They don't have to wait for the reaction in vaccines in adults to then see what it will be like in the children. And can we just come home to Nigeria? Nigeria is edging close to testing 600,000 samples. This may not look like a big deal, but when you look at the capacity of testing on the continent, Nigeria is not doing so badly. Now, at the last bi-weekly meeting on Monday, the PTF lamented that states are failing to meet a testing target. Apparently, there's a testing target, although we don't know of the timeline attached to that target. The PTF is saying that states should at least test 1% of their population. And according to the coordinator of the PTF, the national coordinator, Dr. Aliyu, he's saying that only the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, has met that target of testing 1% of the population. He also says that Lagos State is edging close to meeting that target of 1% of testing its population. We expect to hear later today the announcement of a new phase for Nigeria, the next step forward for the country as we try to curb the coronavirus pandemic. To you guys.
Well, brilliant report there, but first let's take breaking news. The inflation figures for the month of September 2020, earlier referred to by Rotus Oddiri during his report, has been released by the National Bureau for Statistics. Year-on-year inflation in September climbs to 13.71%, and that's from 13.22% in August. Core inflation has climbed up to 10.58% in September, and that's from 10.52% in August. Food inflation, as of September 2020, is reported to be 16.66%, and that's up from 16% in August. That's the breaking news there. Adesua, are you still with us?
Yes, I am here.
Okay.
I mean, Adesua, quickly, I wanted to talk about France. France now has got over 70% of its ICU beds occupied now. It's burgeoning out of control in France. And a lot of people are beginning to blame President Macron for dropping the ball. The opening was not met with strict regulations across board, and the French people were quite very lax. And when you compare that to other areas like Germany and the likes, you see that there's a seeming difference about what France has done. But this spread gets across board. Even America, it's not abating. Look at Trump doing a rally in Iowa, Dr. Fauci coming out to say, okay, his results are good, he's not shedding. But he's having what I call super spreader events. If you saw his event yesterday, packed full of people coming too close to each other, not everybody wearing a face mask and things like that. It just really affects everything. I think there was a report out of Ohio yesterday that was talking about the fact of increased numbers in Cleveland, Ohio, and the fact that they have to set aside, special purpose beds, for people coming down with COVID. You talked about Kerala. Yeah, a lot of people have touted Kerala as a golden child on how to fight coronavirus out of India, but you can see what is happening there. And this is why you talked about the tests, 600,000 tests, not too good. I think if we say we are the giant of Africa, our minimum standard should be South Africa. How many million tests has South Africa done? Over 1 million tests I can say South Africa has done. But we are still pegged at 600,000. It shows that we're not testing enough. We still need to ramp up testing, and let's not forget that coronavirus is not over yet. Because when you look at what is happening in Nigeria, it looks as though a lot of people have even forgotten that coronavirus is over. Just pockets of people wear their face masks during this protest.
On France has an infection rate of about 27,000 per day. President Macron is hoping he will be able to bring it down to 5,000, 3,000, 2,000. Whether these measures, this plan to shut down 8 cities for 4 weeks will achieve that remains to be seen. But the thing, of course, is that France is not alone. Czech Republic, France, Spain, other countries, United Kingdom, they are shutting down to prevent a second wave. But there is a penalty in France. If you violate the restriction, you pay 135 euros.
Yeah, you said that this way, and kudos to those parents who are allowing their children to test vaccines. They're better than me, I have to say. Well, thank you, Adesua.
Yeah, but on Pfizer, we hope that other pharmaceutical companies will follow the example of Pfizer, so that you can really know the unique situation of young people, so that they don't have to depend on adults' results.
Indeed. After all, we regard them as super spreaders, and they don't show symptoms most of the time. So focus should also be on them.
All right, great one, Adesua. Thank you so much.
Thank you.